If you can answer this question, you are not leading. At some point, every serious leader hits the same moment. You are working harder than ever, achieving more than ever, and suddenly you realize you are not actually clear on why you are doing it. I have seen this question come up again and again with high-performing leaders. Today, I want to unpack it through one powerful idea from Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. Not as a book review, but as a challenge. Because according to Sinek, the leaders who inspire loyalty and movement all start in the same place. They start with why. And by the end of this video, I will share a short story from the book that makes this idea impossible to forget. But first, we need to understand the question itself. Part of the reason this topic resonates deeply with me is because I've lived through different phases of professional life. I spent more than 14 years working in technology and analytics world, eventually becoming a principal consultant and data scientist. Over time, my work increasingly moved beyond technical problems into something deeper: leadership. How people think, how organizations align, why some leaders inspire while others struggle to mobilize teams. This journey eventually led me into leadership development, and today I also serve as a Maxwell certified leadership coach. And through all those experiences, one pattern kept appearing. Highly capable professionals often become very skilled at execution, but many never pause long enough to ask the deeper question: why am I doing this in the first place? And that is one of the reasons I started this channel. This space is really about leadership conversations that help high-performing professionals build identities strong enough to pursue high achievement without sacrificing purpose, family, or legacy. Because achievement without alignment actually becomes exhausting. Sinek explains this idea through a simple model called the golden circle. Imagine 3 circles. At the center is why, then how, then what. Most organizations communicate in the opposite direction. They start with what they do. We make this product, we offer this service, then they explain how they do it. Our system is better, our technology is advanced, but very few leaders start with the inner circle. Why does your organization exist? Why should anyone care? Sinek explains that inspiring leaders communicate from the inside out. Purpose first, then execution. And interestingly, there is even a biological reason for this. The part of the brain responsible for feelings and decisions responds strongly to belief and purpose, while the rational brain explains decisions afterward. That is why people often say things like, I just feel this company stands for something. Purpose speaks to people before logic does. Sinek uses a simple example to illustrate this. Imagine Apple advertising the way most companies advertise. They will say, we make great computers. They are beautiful design and easy to use. Want to buy one? That is how most organizations communicate. Start with what? But Apple historically communicated differently. Their message sounded more like this: everything we do, we believe in changing the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making beautifully designed products that are easy to use. We just happen to make great computers. Same company, same product, but the message begins with belief. Most companies, when asked about their purpose, say something like this: we are passionate about excellence, which is often corporate language for we are still working on that part. And if you are watching this as a leader, you might want to pause this video and reflect honestly. Now, let me turn this into a short leadership exercise. Ask yourself 3 questions. First question, on a scale from 1 to 10, how clearly can you explain why your work exists beyond profit or promotion? Second question, how clearly could your team answer this question? Why does this organization exist? Not what it sells, not what it produces, but why it exists. Third question, if someone asks the people you lead, why do you follow this leader? Will their answer involve belief or obligation? And if your answer right now feels somewhere between a 3 and a motivational speaker, then this conversation is probably worth having. One of the most important ideas in the book is this: there are only 2 ways to influence human behavior: manipulation or inspiration. Manipulation includes things like discounts, promotions, fear-based messaging. These tactics can produce results, but they rarely produce loyalty. People will work for incentives, but they will give their best work to a cause they believe in. That is the difference between management and leadership. The book also explains how ideas spread. It follows something called the law of diffusion of innovations. Every new idea spreads in stages. First come the innovators, then the early adopters, about 13.5% of the people. These are the believers. They don't adopt something just because it is practical. They adopt it because it reflects their belief. Once they adopt it, the majority begins to follow. Think about the famous March on Washington in 1963. Hundreds of thousands of people gathered, but they didn't come because someone promised them incentives. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't say, "I have a pen." He said, "I have a dream." And belief spreads faster than features. Let me close with the story I mentioned earlier. Sinek tells the story of a runner named Ben Coleman. Ben has cerebral palsy. Running is extremely difficult for him. During one race, it was cold and raining. Most runners finished in about 20 minutes. Ben finished 40 minutes later. He fell multiple times. Why? Because Ben wasn't competing against anyone else. He was simply determined to finish. His purpose was clear. And when people see someone driven by a purpose, something powerful happens. They want to help. So, let me come back to the question we started with. The one question every serious leader must answer. Why do you do what you do? Not your job title, not your achievement, but the belief behind your leadership. Because strategy answers the question, how? Execution answers the question, what? But leadership always begins with why. If these kinds of leadership conversations resonate with you, consider subscribing and joining the conversation here. This channel is really designed for high-performing professionals who want to pursue meaningful achievement without sacrificing purpose, family, and long-term legacy. And one of the ways we explore that is by unpacking ideas from some of the most influential leadership thinkers and applying them to the real pressure leaders face today. For today, I'd love to leave you with a simple exercise. Write one sentence, just one sentence. Finish this sentence. The reason I do this work is. If you are comfortable sharing it, write that sentence in the comment, because leadership doesn't begin with strategy. Leadership begins with why. Thank you for watching.